Florabella on my screen. Her smile, it shines so bright. She's a queen with every scene. In the morning or the night, recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. With every like and every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Recipes and good vibes flow. Every video a gem. Her confidence, it grows and grows. We're inspired like her friends. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong. Every share, we feel her energy. No storm too strong she can't bear. She's setting us all free. Unstoppable Flora, she's got that power, spreading her aura, blossoming like a flower. Through the highs and all the lows, she remains so strong. Her spirit always glows. She's where we all belong.
Battles got power, Florabella stands tall. Every drip, every drop, watch the haters fall. Channel sharp as thorns, ain't taking no mess. Scroll through her feed, feel that queen's finesse. Vines tangle tight, but Flora breaks free. Roots so deep, can't mess with her tree. From the mud she rises, roses from the dirt. Every comment section she lays down hurt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. From the garden green to the concrete wall, Florabella, unstoppable nature's child. Leaves whisper secrets, she's the loudest shout. From the channel buzzing, she never backs out. Seed of strength, through seasons she grows. In the face of doubt, her spirit glows. Cameras ain't a limit, she branches out. Thorns in her crown, she wears it no doubt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. girls got power, Florabella stands tall. Every drip, every drop, watch the haters fall. Channel sharp as thorns, ain't taking no mess. Scroll through her feed, feel that queen's finesse. Vine single tight, but floor.
Please talk to someone else, cause I can't talk to bro boy. I can't talk to bro boy. I can't talk to bro boys. I can't talk to bro boy. I can't talk to bro boy. No, I can't talk to bro boy. I can't talk to. That nigga's crazy. Hopping in, bitch, and I saw it to be. Snakes in the grass, so they harder to see. My brother would give up his life to the O. He told me he'd go be a martyr for me. Said that she ready to corner the 6. I hit up Pauline and charter the P. Ain't really leave, but I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm riding around in Atlanta with sad, cause that nigga been going harder than me. Nothing to change, I'm just harder to please. Ferrari is making an SUV. We ain't got a choice, we ordering these. Shout out Noel for recording the V's. He know where they shit about to go, cause nobody touching the flow. They say you alone at the top, but it's gotta be lonely below. You was getting ready to diss, but don't even mention a hoe, and don't even mention a foe, unless you was trying to go pro.
Whoa, I got more strikes than Adidas.
Yeah, I got the stripes to fuck.
I don't chase bitches, I leave them.
Hoes screaming like I'm just
I don't get mad, I get even.
Treat you niggas like a puzzle beat.
I don't get mad, I get even.
Bitch, you niggas, then you
Whoa, all that foundation she wearing, she thinks she QC. Telling I might sneaky link you with me. You must be Coach K, cause you ain't P. I'm on the jet like my last name Lee. 2 sticks in my hand like I'm playing a Wii. G-Block babies will spank you for free. We rough niggas up, now they begging for peace.
baby.
Stepping on shit out in French in my toe. One in I toe, I'm so OVO. Halloween coming, he wanna dress up, but he don't need no costume, I'm turning on ghosts. She caught me mucus, I stay in her throat. Still hit that boy, got his ass hitting notes. My niggas were man,
So you know where this shit about to go, cause nobody touching the flow. They say you alone at the top, but it's gotta be lonely below. You was getting ready to diss, but don't even mention a hoe, and don't even mention a foe, unless you was trying to go broke. Oh damn, man, you niggas is the worst. Savage snatch you out your crib, then drop you in a hearse. Baby, please, man, me nervous. Stop reaching in your purse. Nigga went and bought a house when he could've bought a verse. Niggas dumb as fuck. Imagine if I did that stupid shit when I was coming up. My crib feel like a hedge fund. I be in here just thumbing up. No, I'm SN1 till I'm done fucking London up. Niggas made me nauseous. I had enough of bro boys. I can't talk to 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 bro boys. All you niggas make me sick. All you niggas rapping about the bricks and the licks. And I hear in real life you living with your bitch. I can't talk to bro boys. I can't talk to bro boys. I can't talk to bro boys. I don't want no combo. I don't got no time for niggas posting mansion, living in a condo. Y'all be make believing. I cannot relate to ya. I can't talk to bro boys. I can't talk to bro boys. I cannot believe y'all was dissing on a old boy. I can't even think of how you came up with that flow, boy. Please talk to someone else, cause I can't talk to bro boy. 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 No, I can't talk to bro boy. I can't talk to
Doctor.
Please talk to someone else, cause I can't talk to bro boy. I can't talk to bro boy. I can't talk to bro boys. I can't talk to bro boy. I can't talk to bro boy. No, I can't talk to bro boy. I can't talk to. That nigga's crazy. Hopping in, bitch, and I saw it to be. Snakes in the grass, so they harder to see. My brother would give up his life to the O. He told me he'd go be a martyr for me. Said that she ready to corner the 6. I hit up Pauline and charter the P. Ain't really leave, but I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I'm riding around in Atlanta with sad, cause that nigga been going harder than me. Nothing to change, I'm just harder to please. Ferrari is making an SUV. We ain't got a choice, we ordering these. Shout out Noel for recording the V's. He know where this shit about to go, cause nobody touching the flow. They say you alone at the top, but it's gotta be lonely below. You was getting ready to diss, but don't even mention a hoe, and don't even mention a foe, unless you was trying to go pro.
Whoa, I I got more stripes than Adidas.
Yeah, I got the stripes to fuck bitches.
I don't chase bitches, I leave them.
Flow screaming like I'm just a bitch.
I don't get mad, I get even.
Treat you niggas like a pussy.
I don't get mad, I get even.
Bitch, you niggas, then you
Whoa. All that foundation she wearing, she thinks she QC. Telling all my sneaky links you with me. You must be Coach K, cause you ain't P. I'm on the jet like my last name Lee. 2 sticks in my hand like I'm playing a Wii. G-Block babies will spank you for free. We rough niggas up, now they begging for peace.
baby.
Stepping on shit out in French in my toe. One in I toe, I'm so OVO. Halloween coming, he wanna dress up, but he don't need no costume. I'm turning on ghosts. She caught me mucus, I stay in her throat. Still hit that boy, got his ass hitting notes. My niggas were mad,
So you know where this shit about to go. Cause nobody touching the flow. They say you alone at the top, but it's gotta be lonely below. You was getting ready to diss, but don't even mention a hoe. And don't even mention a foe. Unless you was trying to go broke. Oh damn, man, you niggas is the worst. Savage snatch you out your crib, then drop you in a hearse. Baby, please, man, we nervous. Stop reaching in your purse. Nigga went and bought a house when he could've bought a verse. Niggas dumb as fuck. Imagine if I did that stupid shit when I was coming up. My crib feel like a hedge fund. I be in here just thumbing up. No, I'm SN1 till I'm done fucking London up. Niggas made me nauseous. I had enough of broke boys. I can't talk to broke boys. I can't talk to bro boys, 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 I can't talk to bro boys. All you niggas make me sick. All you niggas rapping about the bricks and the licks. Then I hear in real life you living with your bitch. I can't talk to bro boys, I can't talk to bro boys, I can't talk to bro boys. I don't want no combo, I don't got no time for niggas posting mansion, living in a condo. Y'all be make believing, I cannot relate to ya. I can't talk to bro boys, I can't talk to bro boys, I cannot believe.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I hope everybody's doing good. If you guys can hear me and see me with no issues, please let me know. If there's some interruptions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to get this show on the road. All right. And I know this was originally scheduled for 1:30, but I had to push it back a little bit because I hadn't showered or brushed my teeth yet. So I'm sorry for the delay, guys. I was playing in the dust for a little while, so I was distracted. But I'm here. I'm going to continue to do my shows. Nothing's going to throw me off track, even if sometimes I'm a little late. So if you guys could let experiencing a delay like I am. You can't hear me? Hold on. Let me turn the music off. Hold on. What about now? Can you guys hear me at all? I know Minister of Defense likes to play around with me sometimes and be mean, but I just want to know if you guys can hear me. No sound? There's no sound. Can you hear me? Wow, Minister of Defense, I'm actually sick and tired of you. I'm going to put you in timeout for being an asshole. Okay? Because I can hear myself on Jay Prince's phone. So, anyways, now he's full of it. He's full of shit. All right. So the story that I wanted to cover today was the story of Miss Vicky White. All right. Vicky White is a correctional officer was a correctional officer who, had 16 years of duty behind her belt. She was fairly accomplished in her field. And she was just overall a very unsuspecting person to have been involved in this situation. Okay, sorry guys, sorry. I have to fix my background a little bit. But the Vicky White story was first of all, this story caught my eye previously. So if you guys have never heard about the Vicky White story, Vicky White was a correctional officer out of Alabama. She is said to have well, many things were said about her, but the truth came out that she was sustaining a relationship with a felon, someone who was actually in jail, sentenced to jail for 75 years already for another crime. And then he also later was found to have deleted somebody. And so here we go. He was on his way to getting tried in Alabama. All right, so I'm going to read a little bit about this case. So on April 29, 2022, two people who would leave Lauderdale County Detention Center under what would seem like perfectly normal circumstances. A dedicated mother figure seeking a mental health evaluation for a prisoner and going to a doctor after because she too was feeling unwell. Underneath the surface, a dedicated employee and a prisoner plot what turns into an 11-day quest for the devious pair and what they could possibly have in common, right? So this woman was a very decorated correctional officer. She had been serving for 16 years. She had never had an infraction. She was quickly moved up the ranks in her field. She became a leader at her facility after proving her dedication to the field. So, for all intents and purposes, when she left that day with the prisoner, nobody could have expected that things would turn out the way that they did. All right. Now, the people who are involved, they'll later start to claim, this person, they should have known that she was doing things outside of protocol. They should have known that, they shouldn't have been trusting of her. But if you had an employee who clocked in on time, did their job, accepted the pay that they were offered for 16 years straight, you also probably would be surprised if one day they came to work and decided to just blow shit up, all right? And that's essentially what Miss Vicky White did here. She did fall for the Pookie in question, or Wookie in question, I should say, white man in the yellow jumpsuit on this thumbnail, this lovely thumbnail that you guys see right here, okay? So once they started to dig deeper into Miss Vicky White's background, you'll start to understand why she did some of the things she did. Now, even though even though she had a perfect record at her job, her personal life was far from perfect. Okay, she had issues with keeping a husband, and she was actually very bitter about the fact that she couldn't find anybody. So on the surface, she was a great worker, but beneath the surface, she had issues. She had problems relating to people. So sometimes things just aren't what they appear. So we're going to get this started with Dr. Todd Grande's evaluation of the situation. Now, if you guys don't know who Dr. Todd Grande is, he is a psychologist, or I believe psychiatrist, who does a number of evaluations on cases that are just meant to be like for entertainment purposes. He doesn't try and diagnose people or anything like that, but he does speak about cases like this and other types of cases from the perspective of a psychiatric or a psychological physician, whatever. So we're going to start with that video. Dr. Todd is actually going to talk about both Vicky White and Casey White, right? They're not actually related to each other, but they do share a last name. But he's going to start by talking about the two of them as individuals and how they came to be together on April 29, 2022. Now, I am going to stop if anyone has any questions or things like that for me to answer in between the video. But for the most part, we're going to look at Dr. Todd Grande's evaluation of...
This is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the case of Casey White and Vicky White? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case. I'll move to the timeline of the alleged crime, then offer my analysis. Casey Cole White was raised in Leicester, Alabama, He played football in high school. His neighbors described him as quiet and polite, but said he was missing a moral checkpoint. According to his attorneys, Casey has an extensive mental health history. In 2010, Casey pleaded guilty to attacking a male relative with an axe handle. He was sentenced to 6 years in prison. Evidently, he did not serve all 6 years because on December 2, 2015, Casey went on a crime spree. He committed a home invasion, 2 carjackings, and multiple shootings in Alabama and Tennessee. In what appears to be a jealous rage, he tried to murder his ex-girlfriend and kidnap her 2 roommates. He was not successful in killing any people, but he did kill a dog during the attack. He was found guilty of 9 charges, including attempted murder, and sentenced to 75 years in prison. Casey would later say that if he was ever released from prison, he would kill his ex-girlfriend. It looks like Casey needs to polish his parole board speech a little bit. About 2 months earlier, on October 23, 2015, a 58-year-old woman named Connie Jane Ridgway was found dead in her home in Rogersville, Alabama. She had been killed in what appeared to be a home invasion. The police did not know who committed the murder. In September of 2020, Vicky White contacted the police to talk about the murder. According to the police, Casey confessed to murdering Connie Ridgway, saying that he was paid to commit the homicide. He was charged with capital murder during a first-degree burglary. Casey was transferred to the Lauderdale County Detention Center.
All right, so obviously Casey White was a very dangerous individual, okay? He was a criminal who just couldn't stop doing what it is that he does. As soon as he was released, obviously he committed a string of more crimes, regardless of the fact that he did actually end up being released for that axe wielding. So he was a very dangerous man, right? And for all intents and purposes, what would he possibly have in common with somebody like Casey White? Or not Casey White, I'm sorry, Vicky White. They have the same last name, so I could constantly remember it that way. But what exactly would he have in common with a correctional officer? You know, what would he actually have in common? Hey, Robin, how you doing today? What would he have in common with her that they would fall in love and obviously, like we know, run away together? So let's hear a little bit more from Dr. Todd Grande. He does a really good job of explaining, breaking down some of these cases. So I want to go into what he said, and then we're going to read the article and actually go through the case step by step from the moment it happened to the 11th day when they were actually apprehended. She, ended it a different way than Casey White, but they cover it from beginning to end in that article. But we'll hear a little bit more from Dr. Grande.
To await trial for the charge. He would later recant his confession. The authorities said that there was evidence that corroborated the burglary portion of his story, but not the murder part. Either way, Casey was still going to trial. A woman named Vicky Sue White worked at the detention center as an assistant director of corrections. Her main job was transporting prisoners. Casey White and Vicky White have the same last name, but they are not related. Vicky is 18 years older than Casey. Not long after Casey's arrival at the detention center, he was returned to prison because...
So, yeah, 18 years older than Casey White. All right, so when we hear a little bit more about her background, just remember that, okay? So let's continue.
Officials determined he was planning an escape. He was going to use a shank to hold someone hostage. Vicky called Casey several times when he was back in prison. The prison was about 2 hours south of the detention center. Vicky never visited Casey in person in that prison. Casey was returned to the Lauderdale County Detention Center in March of 2021 for a mental health evaluation. Therefore, Casey and Vicky were able to see each other in person again. Casey remained there for 4 months before being returned to prison. Vicky once again called him frequently when he was in prison. On February 25, 2022, Casey was once again transferred to the detention center. The plan was for Casey to remain there until his trial was over. Vicky supplied Casey with additional food, as well as other privileges. Some of the other inmates were envious. Vicky scheduled her retirement for April 29, 2022. She sold her house on April 18 for $95,550, which was below market value.
Now, just pay attention also to the fact that she clearly was doing things that showed that she was, I don't know how to say this. Maybe she didn't expect to live much longer. Okay. She sold her home for $95,000. Okay. She set her retirement for the day that this actual escape happened. She liquidated all her money. Now, somebody as educated as herself and who had the credentials and the career that she had, why would she seemingly end everything legitimate in her life, including her career, getting all the financial resources that she can scrounge together in her life, which unfortunately happened to be only $95,000 for her house. And she also ruined her reputation at her job. Now, being the way the case ended and the way things ended up for her, I think it's pretty clear that Miss Vicky White had no intentions of returning to her life or even trying to live at that point. I'm not going to say the word for it, but let's just assume that she was probably on a path to self-deletion anyways. All right, like that's one thing that I noted in this situation, which made it a little bit of interest to me, is that she was doing a lot of things that people do when they're getting ready to end things, end their journey, I should say. Okay, she was making a lot of rash decisions, and she obviously had no intentions of living her life, at least the way that she had been, which is for the past 16 years, she had been a correctional officer. What's going on, Royce? How's it going? I hope you're doing good today. I did jump right into the subject matter, but I wanted to make sure I got onto the story and finished everything in time because I'm going to be heading out of here in like an hour and a half. But make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, and engage in the chat because I'm trying to get my content into a different direction. Not really interested in slumming with bandits and mammies anymore. So please make sure you guys tune in for this content, and I'm going to jump right back into it. But I think I definitely think that she wasn't intending to live her life anymore, if that's the best way of saying it. The decisions she was making and how she was moving, she was literally done. So let's continue the video from Dr. Todd.
She purchased a 2007 Ford Edge and parked it in a mall parking lot not far from the jail. I'm guessing that when Vicky went to buy the vehicle, the dealership didn't have a Ford Escape available. If she had only purchased a Ford Rethink Your Life Choices, maybe this story would have turned out differently. To be fair, that's a very unpopular model these days. Now moving to the timeline of the alleged crime. On April 29, 2022, at 9:41 a.m., 56-year-old Vicky White informed other officials at the jail that she was going to transport 38-year-old Casey White to the courthouse for a mental health evaluation. She said that she was going to an urgent care center after dropping him off because she was not feeling well. There was no mental health evaluation scheduled at the courthouse. The staff at the prison realized that Vicky was violating protocol by transporting the prisoner alone, but did nothing to stop her. At 9:49 a.m., Vicky's cruiser was captured on surveillance video at an intersection about a half-mile away from the shopping center where the Ford Edge was parked. Nobody at the jail figured out that anything was wrong until about 3:30 p.m. They could not get a hold of Vicky, and they noticed that Casey never came back to the jail. Vicky's cruiser was found abandoned not long after this. Vicky White was charged with permitting or facilitating escape in the first degree. At the time making this video, Casey and Vicky are still on the run, enjoying their dream life together. The authorities hope that Casey and Vicky will be easy to spot Casey is 6'9" and is about 330 pounds. Vicky is 5'5" and weighs about 145 pounds. She has what the authorities referred to as a waddling gait. Now moving to my analysis. When this incident was first reported,
Now, Dr. Todd, did we need to know that she be waddling her ass up and through? We didn't need to know that, okay? But the fact of the matter is, she and this prisoner had some type of relationship that ended in an escape, all right? He was a violent criminal. She was a correctional officer. But she fell in love with him. She was contacting him prior to the last time that he arrived at her prison. So there was a lot going on in this situation in the background. So now that we've heard Dr. Todd break it down for us a little bit, I'm going to pull up the articles here so that we can go through the entire case. And then we're going to watch a quick video about Miss Vicky White and the history of her life. All right. So this article, a lot of the articles I'm going to read today, just bear in mind, guys, is that they are from the perspective of when this stuff was going on. All right. So this is from 2023. This case happened in 2022, but a year after it, and that's when more of the answers about what happened between this couple, that's when all that stuff really started to come out. Okay. There a lot of things they had to go and research her background, his background, pay attention to their history in order for these details to come out. So a year after this case had occurred, an article was written in WHNT, and we're going to read that here. All right. So on April 29, authorities sent out an alert to the public and local media outlets saying a capital murder suspect and a jailer were missing from the Lauderdale County Detention Center. No one could have imagined what would ensue over the next 11 days as the nation became familiar with the faces of Casey Cole White and Vicky White, no relation, when the pair led local and federal agencies on a frantic hunt. Casey White had a history of violence, including a standoff with the Limestone County Sheriff's Office in 2015. At the time, Casey was wanted in 2 states. He was sentenced to 75 years in prison following the standoff for burglary, robbery, kidnapping, and attempted deletion. All right, so obviously, what's his face? Mr. Casey White was a wrongdoer his entire life. He's a violent criminal. He was a big guy too, right? Dr. Todd described him as being 6'6" and 330 pounds. So he was he was a large man, and he was a violent man as well. All right, what's going on, Sammy? How you doing this afternoon? Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. How are you doing? How are you guys all doing? I hope you guys are enjoying the content. I have been sort of switching things up a little bit. I'm trying to focus on more things that are of interest to me and that are more relevant, and sort of staying out of the loopholes of talking points and things like that. So let me pull up a little bit more of this article as we continue on this subject. So he was transferred to Lauderdale County Detention Center in February 2022. Lawyers were preparing him for trial in connection with the 2015 murder of Connie Ridgway. Cassie confessed to the deletion, claiming he was paid to delete Ridgway. He was charged with capital murder just a few months later. I keep saying deletion and then murder and deletion and then red rum. So I'm sure it don't really matter too much anymore. With this stream. But Vicky White was the Assistant Director of Corrections for the Fort Lauderdale County Sheriff's Office and had worked for LCSO for nearly 2 decades. She reportedly turned in her retirement paperwork in April 29, 2022, was set to be her last day. All right, so the same day that she tried to escape with this man, that was meant to be her last day of work. So now you guys know, I mentioned earlier that I think that she was on the road to self-deletion anyways. If she made that her last day at work, she knew that she wasn't going to get no retirement money. She knew she wasn't going to get that check. She knew at that point that her life was over, essentially. And not because anyone made it so besides herself, right? She chose these decisions. But it seems as though she knew that nothing would come to be of her life after April 29th. And so that was the day that she put in paperwork for her to retire. In the weeks leading up to that date, Vicky sold her home and had talked about going to visit the beach. Though the pair was not related, it would later be revealed Cassie White and Vicky White shared a special relationship, including 949 jailhouse calls. Hold on. They shared, sorry about that, guys. They shared 949 jailhouse phone calls while he was in Donaldson Correctional Facility. So they literally were spending hours and hours and hours on the phone with each other, talking about their love, right? And this is a detail that I don't know if her actual job, Lana says SMH, very, very disturbing. But I don't know if her job would have been able to pick that up. But how is it that they wouldn't know that she was in contact to this degree with a criminal? How is it that she could be visiting, having phone calls, and having this long love affair, and nobody from her jail would have known this stuff, right? So it's a little weird. I don't know if when people are in these fields, they're always protected and things like that, but that's what it appears. Guys, give me 1 second. I gotta go fix something in the background with the kiddos. Hold on.
Battles got power, Florabella stands tall. Every drip, every drop, watch the haters fall. Channel sharp as thorns, ain't taking no mess. Scroll through her feet, feel that queen's finesse. Vines tangle tight, but Flora breaks free. Roots so deep, can't mess with her tree. From the mud she rises, roses from the dirt. Every comment section she lays down hurt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient, resolving, no lesser. Florabella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless.
All right, sorry about that, y'all. I got to keep everything in order with the kiddos while I'm doing my shows. But all right, so 949 jailhouse phone calls. So she's already been contacting this dude long before he came to her facility. I think it's really weird that people are able to engage in this stuff with seemingly very little oversight. I mean, I think that if you're a correctional officer, that there should be some decorum and that there should definitely be some supervision as well. That you can't just be openly contacting other prisoners. Your whole job is to keep prisoners in line. How is it that you're able to be on 900 phone calls with a prisoner from another facility, right? I thought that was a little strange. Um, so let me see real quickly. Give me 1 second, y'all.
From the garden green to the concrete wall, Florabella, unstoppable nature's child. Leaves whisper secrets, she's the loudest shout. From the channel buzzing, she never backs out. Seed of strength, through seasons she grows. In the face of doubt, her spirit glows.
All right, sorry guys. Thank you for bearing with me. But yeah, I think there should be some type of rules in place. Like, if you're a correctional officer, you can't just be on the phone writing love letters with a bandit in another jail. This is something that didn't sit right with me on this case, that she had a whole prior relationship with a dude from while he was in another prison, and then he ends up being transferred to her prison. Like, well, how ironic is that? There's some weird stuff going on with that. But let's continue reading on this case. On the morning of April 29, Vicky arrived at the Lauderdale County Detention Center and asked a deputy to prepare Casey for transfer to the courthouse. For the next 11 days, authorities tried to learn everything they could about the pair's relationship and where they might be heading. It's weird as well that they just started trying to learn about the relationship now. I mean, she clearly had a relationship with the dude prior to him arriving there, but the fact that there's no oversight, that they're able to be sort of in contact with people, with whoever, living their independent life when they're not at work, While most of us, if we have a bad Facebook post or a bad IG post, that could be a whole reason why we don't get hired, you know? There's some weird stuff going on with this part of the case. All right. So Friday, April 2019, sorry, April 29, 9:41 a.m. Vicky was seen on jail surveillance video leading Cassie, handcuffed and in leg shackles, out of the facility under the guise of bringing him to a mental health evaluation at the courthouse a half mile away. So I think part of the issue with this too is that correctional facilities are extremely understaffed, right? Because they mentioned in a lot of the articles that I read that there was no scheduled mental health evaluation. So how is it that you can just take a prisoner out of prison, bring them where you want with no proof that you're taking them somewhere, right? But the fact that she had shown up to work for the last 16 years was enough for people to just brush off some of the problematic things that she did in the workplace. I thought it was very strange that she was able to just say, "Oh, I'm taking him to a mental health evaluation," and there was never a scheduled mental health evaluation. So she pretty much just walked in and said she was going to do something that there was no way to prove that she would do. Vicky was seen on jail surveillance video leading, yep, and that was supposedly a half mile away. The plan, according to Lauderdale County Sheriff Rick Singleton, had been for Vicky to drop Casey off at the courthouse and then go to see a doctor because she wasn't feeling well. All right, why did she have to take him before she went to her doctor's appointment? Like, all of it was very strange. But I think the fact that A, they're understaffed, and two, they just trusted her because she showed up for work every day for the last 16 years. Um, it was very clear that there was lack of oversight there. She pretty much was able to just do whatever she wanted. I think the security officer should have mental health evaluations too. Me too, right? Because they're handling prisoners. I mean, they're handling very scary people, very manipulative people who are good at manipulating, right? And just because you get caught for a crime doesn't mean that you're not good at manipulating and harming people. It doesn't mean that. So I think it's very interesting that A, she was able to carry on a relationship with a man that was later transferred to her prison, and B, there was absolutely no oversight for what she was doing at work. To the point where she could literally say, "Hey, I'm gonna take him to the courthouse, and then I'm gonna go see a doctor because I'm not feeling well." You know, it's just a weird type of. It seems like that's something you would do at McDonald's. Like, okay, I'm gonna wrap up this meal, and then I'm gonna leave. You know, but she was going to drop off a prisoner for a mental health evaluation, and it seemed like she was just very easily and without any oversight able to do that. But I do agree. I think they get mental health evaluations on entry, and if they have problems at work. But if nothing comes up at work for the last 16 years, there would have been no reason for her to get evaluation. But this is part of why I think that they should get regular evaluations. Um, so let's continue. The plan, according to Lauderdale County Sheriff Rick Singleton, had been for Vicky to drop him off at the thing and then go to the doctor. However, surveillance footage would also capture the marked patrol car, a Ford Taurus, pulling into the lot of a nearby shopping center 8 minutes later. All right, so 11:34 a.m. Hold on, y'all. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Cameras ain't a limit, she branches out. Thorns in her crown, she wears it, no doubt. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure. Resilient resolve, ain't no lesser. Flora Bella's reign strong and relentless. Beauty in battle, queen sure defenseless. Flora's anthem, blooming under pressure.
All right, y'all. Sorry for all the interruptions. You guys know I gotta be making sure things are good over here. All right, so 11:34 a.m. Florence police officers spotted the empty patrol car, but the significance of finding it would be realized All right, so 11:34 a.m., Florence police officers spotted the empty patrol car, but the significance of finding it wouldn't be realized until 4 hours later. Deputies kept trying to call Vicky, but her phone was going straight to voicemail. They realized, too, that Cassie was not back from the mental health evaluation. Singleton also confirmed that Vicky, who worked for the department for 16 years, had turned in her retirement papers the day before she went missing. Singleton also confirmed, all right, so she had worked for the department for 16 years and had turned in those papers, 4:47 p.m. This is all April 29th, the day that they escaped. Sheriff Singleton sends a picture in a group text to local media contacts saying, um, alert, alert, missing corrections officer and capital murder suspect. By 5:30 p.m., the U.S. Marshals were called in to help, along with the FBI, ATF, Secret Service, and the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency. Um, an official blue alert was issued at 7:27. So I believe a blue alert is actually when a police officer might be in danger. Just like the silver alert is when an old person is in danger. The blue alert is when a police officer might be in danger. So they just weren't sure what was going on yet. Again, when this case happened, I had no idea what actually happened, but I saw the woman in question and I saw the man who escaped supposedly. And the first thing that I thought was, oh my God, she went and found herself a prison bae. All right, that's the first thing that I thought when I saw the case. But for some reason, they were still regarding it as if maybe she was harmed as well. Saturday, April 30th. So it's the next day after they had been caught, or let me see here. As the news began to spread, many became concerned for Vicky's safety, while others wondered if she was involved in the escape. Authorities said regardless of her involvement, she could very well be in danger. All right, so again, how did they still not have the record of the 959 calls that were made between her and this prisoner to the point that they would consider her to be in a blue alert situation, having been kidnapped by a prisoner? Very strange. All right. For the first week, it seemed like we were always a couple steps behind, Singleton told News 19 while looking back on the escape 1 year later. All right, so again, Saturday, April 30th. Investigators learned that the getaway car she purchased a few days earlier, a copper-toned 2007 Ford Edge, was in the same lot the night before the escape. The hotel Vicky stayed in was within walking distance of that lot at the Florence Square shopping mall located at 180 Cox Creek Parkway. Vicky White, according to Singleton, had been talking about her retirement for the past 3 to 4 months, had talked about visiting the beach, and had recently sold her home. Court documents show that White sold her home in Lauderdale County on April 18, 2022 for $95,550. Sunday, May 1st. 2 days after the escape, the U.S. Marshal announced that they would reward up to $10,000 for any information leading to the arrest of missing Lauderdale County inmate Casey Cole White and Sheriff's Office employee Vicky White. So we're 3 days into the escape, and she's still being regarded as a possible victim in this case. Now, possibly they might have also been thinking that she was involved at this point, but it seems like they were still up in the air with things. You know, they gave her a lot of leg room in this case to possibly pop up and be like, yeah, he kidnapped me or he made me do it, but she didn't. You know, she had all these things in place, they came to find out, including that getaway car that they found. Monday, May 2nd, authorities announced they issued a warrant for Vicky White's arrest for first-degree facilitating an escape during a press conference on May 2nd. So it took them a couple of days, but eventually they realized she was involved in the case. Tuesday, May 3rd, as LCSO and national agencies continue their investigation into Casey White and Vicky White, more information was coming to light and being shared with local and national media in an effort to catch the pair. 5 days into the search, released jail surveillance footage showed the last time the two were seen at the county's jail on the morning of April 20th as Vicky loaded Cassie Casey into a patrol car. Authorities also confirmed there was a special relationship between Casey and Vicky. Right. Investigators at the time learned this after speaking with inmates from the Lauderdale County Detention Center over the weekend. The U.S. Marshals sent a flyer on Tuesday, May 3rd, revealing the pair could be in an SUV. The flyer stated they were last seen on April 29th in Rochesville in a rust-colored 2007 Ford Edge with an unknown Alabama tag. We know she purchased it from a local used car dealer, said Singleton. That's been the focus of our investigation. All our efforts all weekend long has been to identify that vehicle. Law enforcement was hoping to hold on to that information a bit longer before releasing it to the public in an effort to find the car and keep them from ditching it. I suspect they're going to ditch the car, so now we're back to square one. All right, so now that we got a little bit of details about how this case actually ended up going on, sorry y'all, I'm going to play a video that talks a little bit more about Miss Vicky White. All right, so let me share this screen with you guys, and we're going to learn a little bit more about her. Let's share this tab instead.
Armed, dangerous, unpredictable, and on the run. Police are warning everyone tonight, nationwide, be on the lookout. Good evening to you. I'm Marnie Hughes. This is a special edition of News Nation Prime for you tonight. 1 hour focused on this case and this manhunt, with new information and exclusive interviews that you have never seen before now. Vicky White, a former Alabama corrections officer who isn't who people thought she was, and Casey White, a murder suspect who is much more evil than anyone could have imagined. This is an unlikely pair caught up in a web of lies and deceit. She had everyone fooled. He has nothing to lose. It has been 7 days since she broke him out of jail in Alabama, and they could be anywhere. And within the last few hours, that getaway car we've all been looking for has been found. It's that copper-colored SUV Vicky purchased using an alias. It was discovered nearly 4 hours north of Florence, Alabama. Abandoned and towed, and no sign of these fugitives.
My gut is telling me that they're obviously on the run, and that they're probably right now. I think the fact that they abandoned this car so quick and where they abandoned it, I think it threw them a curve. I don't think they planned for that.
They could be anywhere right now, and until they are caught, no one is safe. I want to bring in senior national correspondent Brian Enton. He is joining us live tonight from Florence, Alabama. Brian, now that the getaway car has been found, police are starting back at square one, essentially. The sheriff seems to think that dumping that car was not part of their plan.
Now, let me just say this. I understand that they were trying to figure things out, but I think a little bit more than your gut could say that she was involved in this situation. First of all, the tragic black wig, okay? That clearly, if she's in a disguise after being seen with this guy, she was very clearly, obviously, involved in something with him, something to a point where she was brave enough to find and buy a black wig and put it on in this pursuit with him. So the fact that they're still kind of up in the air about things was very, very crazy to me. I didn't understand this part. But let's continue. They're going to share a little bit more about her life.
Plan.
Yeah, Marnie, the sheriff believes that car actually broke down. It was found in a rural part of Tennessee, but the sheriff says it was not necessarily hidden, which makes him think that they had some kind of maintenance problem with it. What's interesting is they did appear to try to spray paint the car to change the color of it. But what's so frustrating right now for law enforcement, Marnie, is that car was actually discovered a week ago in Tennessee. Someone spotted it, thought it was odd that it was abandoned. It was towed to a tow yard, but it was not until today that the law enforcement enforcement officials in Tennessee contacted the sheriff's office here in Alabama and said, wait a minute, we think this is their car. So it basically gave Vicky and Casey 1 week to run, and no one even knew they weren't in the car anymore.
Brian, you've been on the ground there for about 24 hours, digging, talking to people who knew both Vicky and also Casey. And I mean, this tangled web that they created and have everybody duped for the last couple of years has gotten more and more bizarre. The more hours that pass by and the more time they're out there, the bigger the risk is. So you've been following the breadcrumbs. And as I said to you last night, there are a lot.
There are a lot. This is definitely a community and a region on edge right now. Everyone knew this couple. People especially knew Vicky White because she was from this town. She worked at the jail for almost 2 decades, and people are still trying to mentally process how all of this could have happened.
Almost no one could have suspected that Vicky White, the longtime assistant director of corrections in Lauderdale County, Alabama, had such a secret dark side.
What is Vicky like? Solid was my word for her. So when this happened, it was such a shock. But she was not a big talker, is not a big talker, but got things done.
Lauderdale County District Attorney Chris Connolly has worked with Vicky for 16 years.
You know, it's like the stages of grief. You say this unbelievable, this didn't happen, and then you know, you get to the point where I am now, which I'm mad that she did this.
Inmates inside the jail are also shocked. This woman just bonded out. Did you ever get a weird vibe from her when you were in jail?
No, not at all. Like she, no, I never did. I never thought that she would, you know, break any kind of rules like that. You know, she was the person you could go to if you were having problems with any kind of CEOs or anything like that.
Having been in jail, are you surprised that she was able to get him out like that?
No. Mm-mm.
Why not?
Because it's chaos here.
Detectives are piecing.
Now, let me say this, Lana. She wanted dangerous love. Her life must have been really, really boring and tragic, right? For her to attach herself to a criminal like this, pretend that she's in love, and stage all of this, sell her home just for this dude. She must have been very bored. And I mean, 16 years working as a correctional officer, I'm not surprised. So let's continue.
Together the days before Vicky vanished with inmate Casey White. There have been reports Vicky was seen inside this department store buying men's clothing. Workers inside told me they could not comment. And others report seeing Vicky at this adult store before she took off. A woman working inside told me her lawyer advised her not to talk about whether or not Vicky was a customer. The sheriff confirms Vicky and Casey were having a romantic relationship. Vicky lived in this house 18 miles from the Lauderdale County Jail, but sold the house days before she disappeared with Casey for $90,000, well under market value.
Is that all money that she would have? Like, is it cash? Is it? My understanding is that yes, that she got that money out of the bank. I mean, you know, in cash. And you know, and I saw where her mother said she was also a frugal person, so she likely had a pretty sporty amount of money on top of that.
Vicky was divorced but still lived with her ex until he passed away in January from Parkinson's. They had no kids, and the sheriff wonders if she was grief-stricken.
You know, they've been divorced for several years, but I think they were still on speaking terms.
Now, I don't know what might have happened to her ex, but he passed away. They had no kids. I don't know. she might have deleted that one. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything about that. Hey, Tequila, thanks for joining me. I'm doing amazing. You know, a bandit or a mammy can never stop me from feeling good about myself. So I'm doing great, and I hope you're doing well as well. I hear you're headed for the altar, so I wish you luck with that. But yes, this case is very crazy. You know, I do think that she wanted dangerous love, and she definitely got it. But I think there was some stuff going on with her mentally as well that played into this. So let's continue.
And I wondered if that might have had something to do with this or not.
Vicky's mom, Pat, lives right next door to the house Vicky lived in. She did not want to go on camera, but told me this is not the daughter she knew, and that all of this has come as a total shock. But there are some people who knew Vicky who are not as surprised. Right now, we're going to meet up with one man who worked with Vicky at the jail.
Nobody is surprised. Nobody from there that has worked with her in the past is surprised.
Vicky was Tyson Johnson's boss for 7 years at the jail.
Okay, but where was Tyson Johnson before this happened? I'm not going to say nothing, but where was he for him to say nobody is surprised? Let's continue.
Jail before he says he was wrongfully terminated. He says she is smart and calculated and has a dark side.
Where do you think she is right now? That's a good question. That is a very good question. Honestly, I don't think she'll be found. Like, she is calculated enough that she has thought this entire thing out. She definitely outsmarted the sheriff. She outsmarted the administrator of the jail.
The U.S. Marshals released these photos showing Casey White's tattoos and also what Vicky...
And I know I didn't just see a Confederate flag. Look at that tragic black wig on her. My goodness. Let's continue.
might look like with brown hair.
And also, Vicky used the tanning bed a lot and laid out in the sun. And Vicky may have been 57 years old, but she looked 75. The photos that they're releasing of her, there's a filter. They're all bright on the face because it's not showing the true her. A lot of people, former employees that have called me, it's like, if Vicky dyed her hair gray and put on some old lady clothes and glasses, she could walk right by you and you would never know it.
How long will Vicky and Casey avoid capture? Their getaway car now found, but law enforcement admits the fugitives have been one step ahead of them and could be anywhere.
I think that her knowledge of corrections and her knowledge of the procedures that we use here in the sheriff's office on transport most definitely played to her advantage. I think this was a very well thought out plan.
Do you personally think they're far away?
I do. I do. I can't see her as smart as she is holed up somewhere around here, but who knows? Obviously, I didn't know her as well as I thought I did.
And important to point out, if anyone sees Vicky or Casey White, the sheriff is emphasizing to stay away. They believe the couple right now is armed and dangerous. They believe they have an AR-15 and a shotgun. Marnie?
Yeah, so people are looking for them, Brian. Their pictures are plastered everywhere. He's 6'9", so he's hard to miss. But you talked to some people today who said they're likely changing their disguise, so you may not be looking for what you think you're looking for.
Absolutely. The district attorney, who is very much a part of this investigation, says they are working on one theory, that it is possible that they have a wheelchair with them and that Vicky is actually pushing Casey in a wheelchair and that he may have a wig on to disguise himself as a woman. She has him in the wheelchair possibly so that you can't tell how tall he is. They're not sure that that's what's happening. It's one thing they're looking into. They're also not sure where they are tonight. They say this.
Look at this. No, they did her dirty. They're probably leaving the country as they did this. They were definitely trying to. I don't know where they were trying to go, but I think the goal with her taking out $90K, retiring, all that, the goal was to end up where they, where they were, have the most cash money that they can have, and be on the run together as lovers. I think that's the main goal here. Now, this photo of her is definitely not. Yeah, they said that she could put on a gray wig, an old lady outfit, and she would fool anybody. And they weren't lying. They weren't lying. So let this video finish and we'll continue the story.
Point they could be anywhere.
And if you see them, do not approach them. Call 911. Brian, you'll be joining us later in the show with another update. We'll see you then. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
All right. So I'm going to put the article that we were just looking at back up so that we can take a look at all of that. So obviously one of her coworkers had a lot to say and he didn't hold back. And I don't blame him, because I feel like the fact that these places are so understaffed, the fact that they don't have anybody, that they will just rely on whoever shows up to work. And it really seems like this county was just, they trusted her and they let her do whatever because she showed up to work. Other prisoners said they saw the special privileges he got. Co-workers said that they saw a nasty, mean streak underneath the frugal and smart, calculating employee that she pretended to be. So obviously there was a lot more going on there, but yeah, her coworker didn't hold back. I thought that was funny. All right, so May 4th, Sheriff Singleton announced on Wednesday, May 4th, that Vicky was no longer employed by the Lauderdale County Sheriff's Office. So she's already been gone with her man for days. I don't know why they took that long to say that she didn't work there anymore, but she obviously didn't work there anymore. She retired on April 29th. Um, Though she had turned in her retirement papers, those papers were never finalized, but Singleton and said her employment was terminated. Honestly, I don't really think she cared. I do think that either she was planning self-deletion or she was planning to just go on the run with her boo until she was self-deleted or, until something happened. When you see the end of this case, you'll start to probably even think that it was she maybe was hoping for like a cop aside, but that didn't happen. Hey, Brownie, what's going on, boo? What's going on, pretty thing? I'm just covering the story of Vicky White. Make sure you guys tune into this if you're coming in a little bit late. But yeah, those papers were never finalized. So News 19 also learned that the day discovery of Vicky White's patrol car in a parking lot in Florence wasn't a coincidence. Singleton said Vicky White drove her department vehicle to work after she had already stashed the getaway parking car in the parking lot of a local strip mall. She then stayed at a hotel within walking distance of where the getaway car was parked. Jail policy is an inmate with Casey White's record is never to be escorted alone, according to Singleton, but jail employees were intimidated to question their boss, Vicky White, about what she was doing. All right, so they were letting her pretty much let her nuts hang at this job, and that's why she felt so comfortable to jump into the job and set all this up. First of all, to be having a back end relationship with the dude, but also giving him special privileges. Front Porch says, Flora, how you be? Good to see you. Hey, Front Porch, I hope you're doing good today. I'm obviously just doing some content. It's a lot different than what I usually do, but I wanted to cover the case of Vicky White as part of my Dangers of Delusion series because she fell in love with an inmate and she ended up risking it all. She basically crashed out for this inmate, putting in retirement papers, selling her home for next to nothing. I can't find even a plot of land that's selling for $95,000 today. So a couple years ago, she pretty much risked it all for this bandit. And I figured this would be a great story to talk about. So thanks for coming. I am doing great, and I hope you are as well. All right, so May 4th, she stayed at a hotel and everyone was scared. So Lauderdale County District Attorney Chris Connolly said Vicky White took advantage of the opportunity. She really exploited her good reputation at the jail. She had no intention of returning to the job, so why wouldn't she, right? Because you can all have the policies in the world. Yes, she broke them. She knew where to exploit them too, using what she knew about those policies and her trustworthiness, the coworker who described her as calculated, he clearly knew her well, right? He understood that she could very well pose to be as this amazing employee. She never missed a day at work. She even would come in sick, and so that's why she had to take him to the courthouse and then, take herself to the doctor because she's this long-suffering, long-working mammy. Unfortunately, mammies exist all over the spectrum, and she was one of them. So she used that to her advantage. So federal officials released more detailed descriptions and photos of Cassie and Vic 7 days into the search. All right, so here's him. We just saw these pictures in that video there because that was some of the first information. He obviously had a lot of racist symbols on his body because when people go to prison, prisons are very segregated. They're very clicky, for lack of a better word. A lot of the people in prisons have to get into fit in. So even if they're not necessarily a white supremacist, you will find a swastika or some other symbol on their body because they need that gang to survive. They don't want their booty hole getting ran every day, right? So they'll join a gang or they'll join a society or a group in prison. Not to give him an out, but I'm just saying he has all these tattoos. Probably had more to do with him being in prison than him being some hardcore criminal. The other thing, why is he shaped like melted dough? There's something doughy about his body, but obviously Miss Vicky White fell in love. There's pictures of her here. I mean, she looks she looks like she would do this. That's all I'm gonna say. She looks like she would do this for love. Okay, and she obviously there was some pictures of hers that they edited with the black hair so that people could see what she might look like with the wig on or with brown hair, because that was part of her disguise. And I didn't realize this was an edited picture until you can see the shirt underneath the hair, but they just wanted people to know what she looked like with this hair. Um, so Friday, May 6th, the copper-colored SUV bought by Vicky White was found on May 6th in Williamson County, Tennessee. According to the sheriff of that county, the vehicle was discovered over the weekend, abandoned in a rural area near Smithson Road and Banner Adams Road. So obviously she was in cahoots with this bandit. They had a plan in place and they were sort of following through with all of that. Now, mind you, this search lasted 11 days. So for 11 days, she was on the run with her boo. And she was doing all types of things on the back end to be able to secure their different escapes. One of them being getting these vehicles, going to Tennessee, selling her home, things like that. She was actively participating in this. Um, the SUV was reported abandoned on April 29th. At that time, it had not been linked to the escape, but later Singleton did confirm that it was found before authorities even knew the pair was missing. Governor Kay Ivey announced another reward for any information provided on the pair's whereabouts 1 week after the escape. A $5,000 reward for info leading to an arrest of Vicky, as well as $5,000 for the arrest of Casey White, was offered. Both Casey White and Vicky White pose a major threat to public and they must be apprehended. I am pleased to offer this support as law enforcement works diligently to get these dangerous criminals behind bars. Our prisons are very poorly managed. Like, I don't want to say anything because I'm not about to go work in a prison just to make sure these bandits stay in jail. But right now, what we have is not it's not secure at all, right? Any of these employees could go rogue and end up taking off with a lover from prison that they meet. It's really tough. And I think it's really tough because a lot of people don't want to work in the field, but also it, the way any of these like police type of jobs operate is like a fraternal organization. So like you basically have to fit the mold and people have to follow the wave, ride the grain, and things will work out the correct way. And she did just that, but instead of using it for good, she exploited it. So, all right. So Monday, May 9th. On May 9th, after a quiet couple of days in the investigation, the copper Ford SUV was returned to Lauderdale County for evidence processing. That same day, more information on another vehicle used by the escaped inmate and jailer came to light and eventually led to the pair's capture. U.S. Marshals released photos of a Ford F-150 truck that had been abandoned at a car wash in Evansville, Indiana on May 3rd. The South Waynebeck Avenue car wash owner said he saw a man who appeared to be Casey White get picked up by another car with a driver that looked like Vicky White. A Cadillac Casey and White were suspected to be driving was spotted near the Vanderburg Sheriff's Office, and law enforcement officials pursued. A chase ensued involving the U.S. Marshals, FBI, and Vanderburg deputies. So she literally went out exactly what she was hoping to go out like the Bonnie and Clyde, right? She got her man. They're rolling around. They're running. They're on the run. And the police and the FBI and everyone, they found them. This is more of a reason why I thought that this was meant to be a situation of like copicide. This is more of the reason why I thought this was meant to be a copicide. Like, I don't know if you guys know too much about those situations, but officers, other people who work in law enforcement, they have, first of all, they have a huge rate of DV and self deletion and things like that. And a lot of the times they know that if they react a certain way in front of the police, that they'll get a certain violent reaction. But this lady, based on the reputation that she had built, I don't think anybody was willing to just delete her on arrival, and maybe that was what she was aiming to do with this, with the way she was carrying herself. All right, so Vanderbilt County Sheriff Dave Wedding said it was a short pursuit that passed a highway and went into a grassy area. Law enforcement officials ended the case by colliding with the White's vehicle and causing it to overturn. Wedding said after the crash, Vicky White pew-pewed herself and was taken to a local hospital in serious condition. Casey White turned himself in and was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Indiana authorities confirmed the pair had been staying at a local hotel in Evansville, which sits in close proximity to the sheriff's office. So they were literally sitting there right by the sheriff's office. I don't know what they were planning to do. She probably realized that the plan wasn't going to work. And honestly, she was outsmarting the police for the most part in that case. So 1 year later, what happened since the manhunt? Casey White was brought back to Lauderdale County on May 10th for arraignment and was transferred back to Donaldson early the following morning. Casey was subsequently charged with felony deletion, prosecutor says, because White had died while he was committing a felony in the case, the escape from the custody. He was indicted on July 12th. That's nasty work. I'm not going to lie. All right. So them two decide to go off together. He convinced her somehow to help him escape. And then he gets charged for her self-deletion. Sit down. He gets charged for her self-deleting after she gets into the crash and really doesn't want to, deal with the consequences of her actions. Now, I'm sure it could be said that he exploited somebody who was mentally ill. But I don't know. I think there was a little bit more to it that had nothing to do with Casey White. Like, I think she was just a woman in distress, and this man and his motives was something that was driving her in her last days. I think she was probably headed towards wanting to delete herself long before she met Casey White. But let's continue. His defense has argued in the past that Casey White was not responsible for the death of Vicky White, as authorities in Indiana said she died by self-deletion. Circuit Judge Ben Graves said the court will hear the Vicky White case first before the actual case that he was on trial for. Well, they want to blame someone. Lana, it's crazy though, because for all intents and purposes, she was of her own volition. She chose to be part of the case. She chose the man. She wanted everything to do with him. She had been in hundreds, almost 1,000 phone calls with this man prior to this happening. So, I mean, I just think it's a little weird that they're still trying to charge him, obviously for his manipulation and for exploiting her desperation, but she was very much a part of it by herself. So I don't know how he's getting another self-deletion charge, but let's just say he deserves it, okay? All right, Casey White's felony deletion trial for the death of Vicky White is currently set for June 12th. The capital deletion trial for the death of Ridgway is set to begin August 14th. The national manhunt is something many, especially the sheriff at the center of it all, may never forget. Though Singleton retired in January 2023, he said, "You know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be a police officer." I mean, I'm sure he was older, but that's crazy that he retired right after. He said he still often gets recognized for his involvement in the case, which captured much of the nation for 11 days. Even to this day, it's still sort of surreal, so Singleton said. Someone that you worked with and had total confidence in and, had total trust in, to betray you like that, it just knocks the wind out of you. Right? And I think the fact that law enforcement in general has such a high self-deletion rate should tell you something about the field. Like, obviously, these people aren't in good spirits, right? Like, not all of them, but obviously there's a lot of employees who are not doing well. But anyways, let's look a little bit more into the persona of Vicky White, all right? Because one of the things that we heard them say is that Vicky White was seen as a mother figure to other people in jail, right? And to me, when I heard that, it made me question what other stuff she might have gotten away with because of her angelic reputation. Now, I'm not trying to blame her for this, but I will say that there had to have been a lot going on with her, but beneath the surface, for her to end up in this situation, right? I mean, obviously she wasn't a mother figure. Um, they might say that she was mentally ill and that's why she became this way and fell for this man. But she obviously wasn't a mother figure. She was in cahoots with a capital deleter, sorry, 900 calls. All right, so it's a little weird, but let's read a little bit about her reputation as a mother figure. So, law enforcement officials are looking for clues to narrow the search for the search area for the Alabama corrections officer who has been charged with helping a capital deletion suspect escape the jail in Florence. Vicky White and Casey White, who are not related, are believed to be on the run together after Vicky White facilitated Casey White's escape on April 29 from the Lauderdale County Jail. What we really need is to know what area of the country they might be so we can focus. Right now, we're having to basically literally do a nationwide search. I mean, they've had 6 days now. We're having to do a nationwide search, and we've got boots on the ground across the country, following up on tips and leads for us through the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force. So it's just a matter of time. We'll get them. Obviously, the sooner, the better. Asked if he thought Vicky White and Casey White were still in North Alabama, Singleton said, "I don't think they are, but obviously they very well could be. We don't have a clue where they're at." All right, so this case, obviously they didn't know her, right? This woman somehow fooled everybody into believing, and who's to say that she wasn't actually a good person deep down in? But you don't just flip one day from being an amazing person to now suddenly becoming this aider and abetter of a violent man who deleted somebody's mother, grandmother, sister, daughter. I mean, Casey White was a violent criminal. So how does she go from being a honorable corrections officer to somebody who literally supports a criminal and a degenerate? Go. I just don't see the correlation there. They get to see how evil the world is every day. I expect it. But Lana, that would imply that people who work in these fields can become jaded. And I think they certainly do, but jaded to the point of joining the criminals is kind of sad. It's kind of sad. It makes me think that law enforcement and all those different fields, they need to reevaluate what it is that they're doing. Because if you can have somebody who, for all intents and purposes, has had a almost spotless career record, then obviously something else was going on there, or people were just overlooking what was right in front of them. All right, so he says, so it's just a matter of time. We'll get them, obviously sooner than later. He had no idea. Sorry, guys. Singleton said am I on the wrong page? Sorry, guys. Okay, no, I'm not. All right, Singleton said the rust-colored Ford Edge Vicky White and Casey were believed to be using has not been located, and it's unclear if they ditched the car after law enforcement inadvertently released a description release the description, or if they are still using it. Locating the car is a priority, the sheriff said, to possibly help narrow the search area. Oh, sorry, I'm reading it through a bubble here. Lana says some can and do. Yeah, it's just very sad though, because literally, what else could have been going besides her not being loved, right? Because when we watch the story, or when we watch Dr. Todd talking about this story in another minute, because he does a final update from 4 days ago, and that's kind of what turned me back onto the case as well too. Like, I had heard about the case at the time, but after reading the details and seeing the chase and all that, I was like, okay, she's a lonely woman who found a man. But you know, I think there was some more. I think there was more to it. I don't know. I personally feel bad for her, but at the same time, how do you feel bad from somebody who becomes bad after seeing bad? I mean, I wouldn't, like, if I saw men harming women, I'm not going to start harming women just because I saw that, you know? That's the part that makes it hard to sympathize with somebody like her. Like, I'm sure that he, or any man who showed her any attention, was able to manipulate her. But I think the fact that she allowed it shows that there was probably some darkness in her when she started the job. You know, she might have had a dark undertone to her character that she was able to keep under wraps, you know, prior to being in contact with or even working. You know, I think she was able to, in her 16 years, she was able to hide the dark part of her character, which, I mean, her coworker jumped out and said all that stuff, but the fact that nobody else saw her that way is proof that she was able to keep it under wraps. So, all right, so let's see here. Singleton, who was the sheriff at the time, he said, "I don't know what their game plan was. It was obvious this was very well planned out. It could be they're just holed up somewhere waiting for things to die down. Law enforcement is soliciting information about Casey White. So obviously the rewards were doubled, $10,000 for Casey White, and obviously still $5,000 for Vicky White." Now my question is, how did these people stay off the radar for 11 days? He's 6'9", she's 5'5". The pairing alone would be crazy. Like, even in a wheelchair, that can't hide him being 6'9". Lana Love said her coworker saw her darkness. You know, the messed up part is I've been that person. I've been the only person sometimes to see the messed up part of somebody's character. And I'm always like, how is it that I can see that shit, but nobody else can? And it makes me wonder, you know, because either you have to be very observant, or you might just be lucky to have been able to see through somebody, you know, because how is it that he was able to call her out? Like, she was calculated, she was dark, you know, she had a evil, like, sort of undertone in the way that she did things. How is it that he was able to call her out in his dealings with her, but nobody else saw her for who she really was, you know? Very interesting. But all right, so I'm going to play the video by Dr. Grande because I think he does a really good job at describing why she did this and sort of maybe where her mind was at. So I'm going to share the tab of this video, and he calls this video the "Did posterior praise cause lonely deputy to throw a jail Mary?" Vicky White update and analysis. So just so you guys know, Dr. Todd Grande has done several videos about this case. I think he did 4 total, but this video was posted 4 days ago, so it's his most recent evaluation. And I know he, as well as a lot of other people, followed along with the case up till today. And he was able to give an opinion on her based off of this. So I'm going to play that video. Let me put this up for y'all.
This video only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Vicky Sue White was born on August 19, 1965, and was raised in Lexington, Alabama. This small town is in law. In 2002, she married a man named Thomas White, who was 6 years older than her.
Now, okay, so I was saying that Dr. Todd is shady, but I had never seen this picture. I mean, she was kind of cute. Like, she was kind of pretty. You know, and I guess sometimes when people age rapidly and significantly and they don't start looking as pretty as they might have felt, Maybe that's what causes some of the loneliness and the sadness. But she was actually pretty at one point, you know. So I don't know. I think it's easy to try to to create a typology, or like, oh, this person fits the mold of a lonely old woman who couldn't get anybody. But she wasn't always a lonely old woman. You know, she obviously was very beautiful at one point. So I wonder what she had going on beneath the surface. Now, I don't know if any of the new shows or anything that they talk about her family history or do a deep dive on her. Oh no, she is an August baby too. Don't tell me. Listen, if she's an August Leo, I can see why she was crazy. Because August Leos, we are crazy. We're a little crazy. You know, I never thought we would be this crazy, but we're a wee bit crazy. So, but if she was a Virgo, then yeah, we know Virgos are psychotic. But she was a beautiful woman. She tanned a lot. That destroys your skin. Yeah, that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand too. Is like, you can't just darken your skin every day and think that you're gonna have beautiful, healthy skin. You know, because if you see this picture here, her face was very like, you know, um, lifted compared to what it looks like in that first shady ass picture that Dr. Grande put up her, where she's over there looking like a, you know, buck tooth snaggle face. She was actually, I think she was a pretty lady, you know. I don't know what happened in her life, but let's continue. Because Dr. Grande is funny to me. I think he does things like super shady, and it's like quirky and funny. But I don't know. Like, if she would have committed this while she was younger, would the narrative be the same about her being a lonely old bat? I don't know. Let's see though.
She divorced him 4 years later due to his substance use. In 2005, Vicky started working at the Lauderdale County Detention Center in Florence, Alabama, about a half hour from her home. Eventually, she became the assistant director and was in charge of the day-to-day operations. Vicky was well respected in the jail, described as a mother figure and a model employee, and won Employee of the Year 4 times. Vicky became engaged to a man named Brian Garner, but the relationship did not last long. On December 27, 2009, Brian was killed in a single-vehicle collision. He wasn't wearing his seatbelt and was ejected. In 2020, Vicky encountered an inmate at the jail named Casey Cole White. Even though they shared the last name of White, Vicky and Casey were not related. Casey was born on August 20, 1983, and raised in Alabama. He had a long history of mental illness and criminal behavior. In 2012, he was sentenced to prison for attacking his brother with an axe handle. On December 2, 2015, Casey went on a crime spree, which included shooting his girlfriend, killing her dog, and shooting a woman during an attempted carjacking. He crashed while trying to escape the police and surrendered. In 2016, Casey was found guilty of 9 charges, including attempted murder.
So obviously I wasn't paying that well attention in the beginning of the video when he talked about this, but he deleted a girlfriend and shot her dog. I mean, like, this is the crazy part. How does somebody like herself fall for this dude? You know, it's like the Wade Wilson. Like, how does somebody fall for a Wade Wilson? He not only does he have a terrible, terrible black scent, but he is a degenerate who deleted women. You know, how do women fall for a man who deletes women? It makes no sense, you know. But some of these desperate women will do anything for love.
Murder, and sentenced to 75 years in prison. While he was there, Casey confessed to murdering a 59-year-old woman named Connie Ridgway in October 2015. The police could not corroborate his confession, and he recanted, but he was still charged with capital murder. Casey was transferred from the Donaldson Correctional Facility to the Lauderdale County Detention Center to await trial. He was caught with a shank and transferred from the jail back to prison. In February 2022, Casey was once again sent to the jail where Vicky worked. Various people at the jail noticed that Vicky started acting strangely, but they assumed she was just stressed out from her job. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On April 18, 2022, Vicky White sold her house for $95,550, which was about $140,000 below market value. She moved in with her mother. On April 28, Vicky submitted documentation to retire from the detention center, effective the next day. Her coworkers were surprised, but they wished her well. On April 29, 2022, Vicky called a coworker and asked for a ride to the jail, saying that she locked her keys in her vehicle. At 9 a.m., Vicky was given a retirement party. She seemed distant during this celebration. At 9:20 a.m., Vicky ordered a deputy to remove Casey White from his cell and prepare him for transport because she was going to take him to the courthouse for a mental health evaluation. She told her coworkers that after she dropped Casey off with other deputies, she was going to visit an urgent care because she was not feeling well. At 9:41 a.m., Vicky and Casey left the jail in Vicky's patrol vehicle. Transporting a prisoner alone was a violation of policy. At around 3:30 p.m., jail staff became concerned because Vicky and Casey had not returned. The authorities started searching for them without success. Here is what the police found during the course of their investigation. Vicky and Casey had been involved in a romantic relationship. They had been communicating on a recorded line since November 2020. All the communications with prisoners were recorded. There were over 1,000 phone calls, some of which contained phone sex. Vicky had been preparing an escape for quite some time. She purchased a rifle, a shotgun, and camping equipment. Vicky visited a store that sold sex toys and bought men's clothing at a Kohl's store. She withdrew $90,000 from various bank accounts and purchased an orange 2007 Ford Edge using an alias. 3 days before the escape, Vicky took Casey out of the jail for 9 minutes in what appeared to be a test run. On the day of the escape, Vicky parked the Ford Edge about 10 minutes away from the jail in a shopping center parking lot. When Vicky and Casey left the jail, Vicky drove the patrol vehicle there and switched vehicles. At 11 p.m., the Ford Edge was found abandoned by a woman in College Grove, Tennessee, but the police did not connect this vehicle to Vicky until May 6. Vicky and Casey had attempted to paint the Ford Edge green, but gave up. They purchased a blue 2006 Ford F-150 pickup truck for $6,000 from a man in Bethesda, Tennessee, and continued their escape. After this, Vicky and Casey purchased a gray Cadillac after leaving the Ford F-150 at a car wash in Evansville, Indiana. They drove to a motel called Motel 41 and paid a homeless man $100 to rent a room in his name for 2 weeks. On May 4, the manager of the car wash reported that someone had left the Ford F-150 there. On May 9, 11 days after the escape, the police started searching Evansville, Indiana for any sign of Vicky and Casey. An officer spotted the gray Cadillac at Motel 41, and the police set up surveillance. They learned that the couple was staying in room 150. As the police were waiting for an armored vehicle, Vicky and Casey left the hotel room, entered the Cadillac, and drove north on U.S. Highway 41. The police pursued the Cadillac and rammed it into a ditch. For some reason, perhaps by accident, Vicky called 911. The police said the OnStar system in the vehicle was not responsible for the call. Vicky can be heard saying that the airbags were going to kill them. She wanted to get out and run, and she said, "We should have stayed at the blanking hotel." Casey White surrendered to the police, but Vicky sustained a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the back of her head. She died at 7:06 p.m. In the vehicle, the police recovered a rifle, 4 pistols, wigs, and $29,000 in cash. About a year later, on May 5, 2023, Casey White pleaded guilty to first-degree prison escape and was sentenced to life in prison. Now moving to my analysis. When I first covered this case some time ago, it was clear that Vicky and Casey were highly interested in having sex with each other. This was the primary motive for the escape. The couple wanted to be left alone and enjoy each other's company. They intended to live in the wilderness and have sex all the time. Their desires clouded their judgment, but also made them feel alive and hopeful about the future. On at least a few occasions, Vicky and Casey actually had sex in the jail. But of course, those were not ideal conditions. There was pressure to complete the act quickly, and Casey wasn't going to remain there forever. He was headed back to prison to serve his previous 75-year sentence, whether he was convicted in connection with Connie Ridgway's death or not. The recordings that were made of conversations between Vicky and Casey revealed their personality traits, as well as the depth and intensity of their desires. This is critical information when trying to figure out what these two were thinking. With all the evidence now available, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory.
Now, those are, and I hate to say it, y'all, but those are some jail calls I'd want to listen to. Now, I know it's probably a little bit disturbing now because Vicky White is dead. You know, she obviously deleted herself. But I would love to hear what that sounded like, only because I know for a fact, and, you know, obviously, maybe not for a fact, but I know my intuition is telling me that she was likely very mentally disturbed, right? And I don't mean to say crazy. I mean, she was probably depressed. She was probably suicidal. I'll say that. She probably wanted to pass, and she met this man, and he fed something in her spirit, you know, the last of her that wanted to be alive. And I have a feeling that those calls would be very interesting. Now, obviously, the case probably isn't that interesting anymore to anybody, but Casey White was a violent criminal. He's still in jail. He's still being tried. I don't even think he's been tried for the other deletion that he was originally in jail for. But I would be interested in listening to those jail calls. You know, shout out to Nyla and all the other people who are covering jail calls now. But the fact that they record those and people still say things that could be harmful to them in their reputation and things, the fact that people still use those calls so freely, you wouldn't even think that they record them. You know, 949 calls. I'm sure it was a lot of nonsense. You know, I'm sure it was a lot of like future faking that he did with her, a lot of love bombing, a lot of manipulation, feeding her little dusty ego. It would be interesting to hear from a psychological perspective, not even because it would be juicy and there's a bunch of information. I think just to hear how he manipulated her and how in some ways she fell for it and fell for it hard. Because I think ultimately she knew the guy didn't care about her. That's why she deleted herself, or not just that's why, but that's part of the reason why she deleted herself. But I think that she sought the connection with Casey because it made her feel alive. You know, obviously she had aged very rapidly. And, you know, she sort of just became this older white woman. No man, not looking as great as she did when she was young. And there's a lot behind that. You know, there's a lot of masking that goes on with her character to be viewed as a mother figure when she was on the back end, essentially 2 years prior to even this situation, sweet talking with this guy. London Love says sweet talking. I agree, but I don't know. Do you think that this was just her? Like, do you think that she was falling for him, or do you think that like there was something in her character as well? How did she even know him anyway? I missed that part. I think he had been a prisoner at her jail before. So he was there in the past, and then he went somewhere else. And when he went to the other place, she was in contact with him. She found a way to reach out, and they were talking, and they had 900 calls between the two of them. So I think he had been a prisoner prior, and then he was switched to another prison, but then he was switched back. You know, there's so much about the story that's like the details that are very murky in this case. Like, I don't know if she orchestrated him coming back to her jail. I don't know if maybe there was somebody in the inside that knew about their relationship and didn't say anything, but she had knew the guy from prior years before. You know, he had been in her prison, and then he was transferred out, and somewhere in between him being transferred out and him coming back, they built a sexual relationship. And I don't know, I wonder if this is common practice with other correctional officers, because if she was so very easily able to be in this relationship with him and it not get back to her superiors or to her job at all, maybe a lot of correctional officers cover for each other. Maybe this is a regular thing that they do. They have these romantic entanglings with prisoners, but the other officers aren't dumb enough to, or not dumb enough, that's a bad word. They aren't able to be manipulated into risking it all for the prisoners that they're in love with. So I don't know. It's a little strange. Let's hear a little bit more from Dr. Grande, and then I will wrap this discussion up and let you all go about your day. Again, I know this subject matter is a little different. The ride is a little bumpy because I'm trying to live stream, but also keep an eye out on the girls, and Jay's obviously back there sleeping. But I appreciate everyone who's stuck with the conversation so far. We are very close to ending the show. I'm going to finish this video by Dr. Todd, and then I will likely wrap it up and schedule my next one. But let's hear the rest of this video and continue.
Opinion. Vicky felt as though her life was one of service to others. She stated that she was stressed because she had never put herself first in her life. She always put everyone else first. Vicky did not have romantic success with men. She was married for 4 years before deciding to leave. When she found a new lover, he was killed in a motor vehicle collision. Vicky had resigned herself to a lonely life. Every night when she came home from work, she consumed alcohol. Vicky had given up on men, given up on sobriety, and given up on any chance of happiness. There was nothing to look forward to, and hardly any reason to get up in the morning. The job at the jail was demanding and stressful. The jail was noisy, didn't smell too great, and dangerous. Vicky was just punching a clock and waiting to die. When she looked around at the inmates, their lives seemed as depressing as hers. They were locked up in a physical cell, whereas Vicky was locked in a cell of her own despair. Both places were terrible. She felt as though she was serving a sentence just like them. When Vicky met Casey in late 2020, she was immediately attracted to him. She understood how inmates were not considered ideal romantic partners, but there was something about Casey she just could not resist. On one occasion, Casey told Vicky that she had a nice blank, a word that rhymes with class. This was a risky move for Casey. He could have lost various privileges at the jail, but Vicky found it exciting. She was flattered that her posterior region had attracted so much praise. Even though it seems odd for a person who worked in law enforcement, Vicky had longed to be a clothing-challenged dancer. She told Casey that she had this desire ever since she was young. She thought it would be fun to dance on a pole and make thousands of dollars, but could not accomplish her dream due to a lack of physical attractiveness. Vicky had showed up for work for years in a uniform, but would have preferred less formal attire. Casey's interest in her body connected with Vicky's dream career. He may have been locked in a cell, but he was able to unlock Vicky's inner exotic dancer. No one was surprised more by Vicky's reciprocation of romantic feelings than Casey.
Whew, oh Lord, that was a little heavy. Now I say heavy because exotic dancer? All right, let's continue.
He once asked Vicky what made her accept him. She responded that she knew he was a country boy. Casey said, "You sure didn't think you were going to fall in love, did you?" Vicky replied, "No, I didn't." This is how they conceptualized their relationship. They truly believed they were in love. Many of the phone calls between Vicky and Casey featured crude references to romance and sex. For example, Vicky said, "I wish I could kiss you right now, so bad. Oh, baby, I want to blank you so bad. And you're such a bad boy." There was a clear theme of badness in her comments. Casey said, "I never knew more of a woman than you. You are my queen. You are my everything. And one day I want to have sex with you." He was unconcerned by the 18-year age difference, saying, "You are a smoking, blanking cougar. You will never get too old." At one point, Casey mentioned how he wanted a pump that could be used on his genitals. The idea of a vacuum-assisted erection elevation enhancer was alarming to Vicky. She explained to Casey that he did not need one of those negative pressure confidence generators. One logical concern for Casey would have been Vicky changing her mind about the escape plan. Casey needed Vicky more than she needed him. Strangely, he was more concerned about her cheating on him. Casey was obsessed with exclusivity in this relationship and cautioned Vicky against paying attention to another man. He also demanded reassurance from Vicky that she loved him more than her prior lovers. Eventually, Vicky reached a point where her alcohol consumption no longer dulled her suffering enough to restrain her behavior. She escaped with Casey, and it led to disaster. Let's take a look at the personality profiles for Vicky and Casey. When I conceptualize personality, I use the 5-factor model. I remember the 5 factors through the acronym OCEAN: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Vicky was low in openness to experience. She was not particularly creative. She was high in conscientiousness. She had a good work ethic. Low in extroversion. She tended to isolate. She had mid-range agreeableness. She could get along with people that she needed to get along with, but she could also be antagonistic. And she had mid-range neuroticism. There were feelings of depression, but generally she was not anxious. Casey also had low openness to experience, but this is where these similarities ended. He was extremely low in conscientiousness. He was impulsive and irresponsible, high in extroversion, like he was sensation-seeking, extremely low in agreeableness. This is consistent with attempted murder, and high in neuroticism. Casey was angry and had feelings of paranoia. The couple was not a good match romantically, but Vicky had lowered her romantic standards to 0, so Casey looked like the love of a lifetime. Now moving to my final thoughts. Vicky White understood that her magical journey with Casey White would end in her death. The escape would involve her being with a dangerous man and having law enforcement vigorously searching for them. When talking about her retirement with colleagues, Vicky said, "When I get out, I will go out with a bang." Vicky had lived her life according to the rules, but impulsivity dominated Casey's life. He was always looking for immediate gratification. In the end, Vicky gave up everything she believed in to chase a sexual fantasy. She lived like Casey and with Casey for 11 exciting and terrifying days. Vicky will always be remembered as treacherous. However, her story contains a valuable lesson. It illustrates the power of despair, boredom, and hopelessness, and how far a person will go to escape the horrible confinement these feelings inflict. Those are my thoughts in the case of Vicky White and Casey White. Please put any opinions and thoughts
Whew, sorry, Lana. I didn't realize I was muted, but this woman was already sick, and this is the power. I learned when I was very young, right? Idle hands is the devil's playground, right? And not to be religious and not to come from that perspective, but when you have nothing going on, when you're not living your life to the fullest, when you're not seeking out new experiences, when you're not challenging yourself, when you just wake up every day and do the same mundane shit, you very well could end up feeling like how she did. She felt lost. She felt alone. She felt nothing. And like Dr. Todd said, she probably knew that she was going to end up dead. She knew it. When she got involved with this man, when she planned everything to run away, when she sold her house for $140,000 outside of market value, she knew exactly what she was doing. And the reason why she went through with it was because she was unsatisfied with your life, right? And this is why, I'll say this is why in my life, I've always sought to do and say and be part of things that I felt like challenged me to go outside of my comfort zone. Because a lot of the times we think, oh, I'm consistent, I'm doing the same shit, I'm involved in the same things. I'm a predictable person. That means that I'm going to live a safe and happy life. But when you never challenge yourself, and I'm not blaming, I'm not trying to talk down on her because she's mentally ill, but I'm saying that when you don't seek out a life that will bring you fulfillment, you can end up in the same situation as her, right? Anybody can end up this lonely and desperate and sad, right? There's a lot of people who probably feel a lot like what Vicky White felt like, right? 16 years giving giving time and energy to the same job, and you don't have nothing to show for it, right? She never had children. Her first marriage failed. The love of her life passed away. For all intents and purposes, she lived a regular, unsatisfying life that a lot of people do. But because of that, she chose to do this extreme thing. Hey, Empress Kia. Vicky White is an example of a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people like Vicky White who they go around and they do what they think will be the best decision, right? They engage in the things that they think will be will bring them happiness, right? Security will bring you happiness, but that's not true, right? Knowing every last detail of every day that you're going to be living for the rest of your life, knowing that for the next 16 years, you're going to be clocking into the same place, right? That doesn't challenge you, that you're not excited by, you don't really care for that well. Those type of things don't necessarily make you feel good, right? You might end up with a 401k or with a nice retirement plan. But as you can see, she chose to set her retirement day for the day that she escaped the prison. She felt so extreme in her circumstances. That's why I make sure that in my life, I do things, I get involved in things that I know they're pushing me outside of my Vicky White, don't say that I know things are pulling me outside of my comfort zone. Empress, I'm actually getting ready to end up, but feel free to catch the playback on this one, because the story of Vicky White is the story of a lot of people. I'm not going to even say women, a lot of people, right? They clock in, they do everything that they're supposed to do on a daily basis. They show up, they are where they're supposed to be, but nobody tells you in life that isn't going to guarantee happiness, right? You're not guaranteed to feel fulfilled in your life, in your decisions. You're not guaranteed to be happy. You're not even guaranteed to feel accomplished, right? You might have accomplished 16 years for this job, but if that job meant nothing to you, right, then you might be just like Vicky White. She said she wanted to go out with a bang. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm glad to hear that, Empress. I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, she wanted to go out with a bang because being a correctional officer for 16 years and being a mother figure and this great leader, that meant nothing to her, right? There probably is some correctional officers that those things would mean a lot more to them, right? They would take it a lot more seriously. But for her, she was ashamed, right? She obviously felt like this life that I built for myself is nothing. I'm going to go fall in love with a violent criminal. This will give me some excitement, right? I'm going to go build a relationship with a violent criminal because my job will never even know. They'll never even seek that information out. The fact that I clock in is enough for them, right? She talks about feeling unfulfilled, about feeling like she sacrificed for everyone but herself. So obviously helping those inmates, which we don't know what kind of help she did at this point, but helping those inmates and things like that, that wasn't important enough for her. Empress says she was in love. Do you think she was in love though? Or do you think that she was like infatuated with what he brought to her life in that moment? I personally don't think she was capable of being in love at that time. I think maybe the mental things, the turmoil that was going on in her head that she couldn't love anybody, but the fact that he brought excitement to her life, the fact that he brought some type of she wanted dusty paradise. You know, maybe she did, but unfortunately, I feel like she didn't love him. I think she was just sad, and the fact that he was talking to her, showing her attention, feeding into her bullshit ass. Oh, I want to be an exotic dancer, but I can't because I'm too ugly. Which she could have worked out. She could have got a neck lift, a chin lift. She could have did that bird. What's that hen lift that they do where they push the skin back? She could have did any of that. Like if she really. I just feel like. I don't know. I just feel like she was in mental despair. He was dangerous enough for her to feel something. Yeah, because she was a correctional officer. She lived a safe life. She clocked into work every day for 16 years. No matter what happened, she clocked into work and went to work. He was exciting to her. He brought some balance to her boring, mundane life, at least how she viewed it. You know, she obviously was a hopeless romantic because one of the people she loved passed away. A single car crash. She risked it all over a dust bucket. She won't be the first and she won't be the last, right? There's a lot of women who feel just like this. They seek out the worst type of partners because it brings excitement to their boring ass lives, right? Someone could even say, you know, that regular women are attracted to bad boys because of the excitement. But I think that if you're finding other ways to be fulfilled in life, right, that if you're seeking out opportunities, that you're being present and honest with yourself, that you won't fall into this. But I just think it's so sad because in one hand, I want to drag and roast her because you really sat there and helped a guy who harmed women. But on the other hand, we obviously know she was mentally unwell. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm still working out the format of how I do these types of videos because I think I'm so used to like PowerPoints. But I think when it comes to stories like this, you can't really do a PowerPoint. That would be boring. So looking at the news and videos and things, those are all primary sources. So that's the best way to get a good account of this story. But I know that y'all were around when this story happened. And you probably saw her on TV and you saw the dude that she ran away with and you were like, okay, this bitch was lonely. She was lonely. And she really exploited all that she accomplished in her life for the worst fucking thing ever. For the worst thing ever. Why would you sacrifice the 16 years of bravery that you had showing up to work every day as a correctional officer? Why would you sacrifice that for a man who's harmed women? Like, some people become jaded. You know, Lana was saying early in the chat, some people become jaded with their lives. Sometimes they've seen so much bad that they're like, you know what, F this. I can understand why, you know, bad people do bad things. I would never go that far, but obviously some people will. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and I hope I see you guys on the next one. I am probably going to do a vlog in a minute or so, going out there and just enjoying the fresh air like bandits don't do. But I hope you guys have a great day. If you guys would like, share, and subscribe to my video, I'll appreciate it. And I'll see you guys on the next story. All right. Have a good night.